Hi everyone, hope you're all doing good, and today I'm going to be doing my Slipknot ranking. I'm going to be ranking the 7 studio albums, including the new one and so far. Slipknot are a pretty big band for me, getting into more like extreme metal, more underground stuff like death metal, more thrash metal and stuff like that. When I was about sort of 18, 19, they were a big band for me getting into that. I don't listen to them as much nowadays as I did back then, but they're still a pretty big band for me. I still really enjoy them when I do listen to them. So yeah, and also you saw that I did a Slipknot stream talking about their whole career from the beginnings up to now. And if you did watch that, you might have a slight sort of idea of what my ranking might be, but it might not be fully concrete. So we're going to get into that in a second. But before we do, if you're new, please subscribe to my channel for more guitar, rock and metal music content. Share with anybody that you think might enjoy my content, and all feedback and comments are massively appreciated. And massive thank you to everyone who's subscribed already. Really appreciate all your support. Hopefully we can get to 300 before the end of the year, but we'll see. And now, without any further ado, let's get straight into this video. Before we get into the ranking, I just want to make a couple of little disclaimers. Firstly, I wouldn't call myself a proper Slipknot fan, and you'll probably see why in a minute. Also, I don't actually think that there's an album, for me personally, I don't think they've done an album which hasn't got any filler on it. And you know, that's just my opinion, what I think. So yeah, don't let the Slipknot police come and murder me or anything. Also, I didn't listen to all these albums to make this ranking. I kind of had this ranking already in my head, and I didn't really want to mess with that too much. So yeah, anyway, let's just get straight into it. In last place, and this is what's going to piss everybody off, it's the self-titled debut from '99. I don't know, I just never really got on with this album. It's, you know, I know some people say that it isn't nu metal, but for me, there are elements of nu metal in this album, especially songs like Spit It Out and Liberate and songs like that. There are a teeny little bit of nu metal in there, but I don't know. I don't like nu metal anyway, so even if there's a tiny bit, I'm still not going to like it. A lot of the songs are a little bit sort of basic, and riff-wise, the riffs are quite bland and boring, and they don't really do a lot for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of anger and aggression in the songs, and a lot of punk attitude as well, which is cool. But there's a lot of like turntable stuff and industrial stuff, and a lot of like alternative weird stuff that is just not for me really. And yeah, it's just an album that when I first heard it, I wasn't really into it that much. There are songs that I really do enjoy though, like Sick and Eyeless as well, Surfacing as well, I really enjoy. Apart from that, I can take or leave the rest of it, to be honest. Coming in at number 6, I've got the new one, The End So Far, and I haven't got it to show because, to be honest with you, I probably won't even bother buying it, to be honest. I'm really not interested in buying it. I just feel like it's really uninspired, boring. It doesn't have a single memorable song that would be setlist worthy in the future. There's one caveat with the debut. There are a couple of songs on there that are setlist worthy, but with this one, it just feels like all the songs are average. Even the singles, you would say on the majority of Slipknot albums, would be an average, alright song. Like, there isn't anything that really stands out. You know, there are some good moments here and there. There's some guitar solos which are quite nice. But for me, there's too much experimentation, and at times it feels like a modern version of debut, which just doesn't sit very good with me. There are a couple of songs that I like though, like Warranty I thought was really good, Heirloom, Acidic I think are alright. The D.I.E songs sort of grown on me a little bit, but then the rest of it I really don't care, and it's really boring and dull, and yeah, I don't need it. At number 5 I've got the one that come out before The End So Far, We Are Not Your Kind, and this album is hit and miss for me. There are some absolutely brilliant songs on here, like Unsainted, Soulway Firth, Neuro Fort, Orphan, Red Flag. They're all absolutely fantastic songs and definitely set list worthy. But then you've got some really poor songs that are a bit long and boring, like My Pain, Not Long for This World, Critical Darling is a bit strange. Spiders is a very interesting song, and then you've got like these other filler tracks that do absolutely nothing, like Death Because of Death and What's Next. They're just pointless and don't need to be there. And there is a lot of experimentation sort of on the second half of the album, which does lead up to The End So Far, I guess, but yeah, because of them standout songs, this one is just above The End So Far. Number 4, and this originally wasn't going to be number 4, but I changed it last minute because I just, had a thought that I like number 3 a little bit more than this. And again, this might surprise people, but at number 4, I've got Iowa, the second album. And I do really enjoy this album. There's a lot less nu metal on it. It's sort of more heavier, probably the heaviest album they've ever done. And it definitely sets up the next album after this, which we'll get onto. But yeah, there's loads and loads of great songs on here. Lots of great classic songs like People Equal Shit, Disaster Piece, The Heretic Anthem, I Am Hated, New Abortion, Metabolic, all fantastic songs. But then there's a lot of like filler songs that don't really do a lot for me, like Skin Ticket is a bit long and boring. The last song, the title track, is really long and boring. Everything Ends is alright actually, but then a song like Left Behind, it's okay, I can take it or leave it. But yeah, I really love the aggression on this album. Corey Taylor's vocals sound incredibly pissed off, which is awesome. And yeah, the riffing and everything on this album is really, really great, much better than the first one for me. So we've got to the top 3 now, and in third place, this is going to surprise a lot of people again. It's The Grey Chapter from 2014. The first one to feature V-Man on the bass and Jay Weinberg on the drums, and the last one to feature Chris Fenn on percussion. And a lot of people think of this album what I do of The End So Far. It's a bit long and boring and uninspired, but I personally, I don't see it with this. I mean, yeah, there are a couple of songs that are a little bit hit and miss, but I think it's a really underrated album. There's a lot of great songs on here, especially the middle section when you've got The Devil in I, AOV, Lech, Skeptic, Nomadic, Custer as well. The Negative One's a great song as well. I love that one. You do have a couple of songs, like the first song and the last song doesn't really do a lot. But apart from that, I think it's a really solid album. Yeah, Corey's vocals maybe isn't quite as good as on previous albums, but I really like the musicality in the songs and the album as a whole. I think it's really good, better than what people think it is, and yeah, I think it's really underrated and definitely deserves another chance. For Slipknot fans out there that are not into this album, definitely listen to it again. It is actually really good. At number 2, and this is going to give away to number 1, but yep, number 2, I've got Volume 3 from 2004, and this was my first Slipknot album back in like 2017 when I first got into them, and it's very different in terms of the style from the first two albums. Sort of incorporates a lot more different stuff, and it's a lot more guitar driven especially compared to the first album. There's so many brilliant songs on here, like The Bliss to Exist, 3-0, Duality, Opium of the People, Welcome, Pulse of the Maggots, Vermilion, Before I Forget. It's stacked full of Slipknot classics, and I absolutely love Corey Taylor's vocals on here. This is probably my favourite album for his vocals. I don't know why, something just clicks with me with this album and his screaming vocals. Yeah, there are a couple of songs that I'm not a massive fan of, like Circle and Vermilion Part 2, Danger Keep Away. They're sort of a little bit more on the slip sour side, which people don't like, and I totally get that. But when Slipknot are doing Slipknot on this album, it's absolutely brilliant, and I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic, this album, but not quite as good as the number one. And for the number one, I've got the t-shirt on. It's All Hope Is Gone. And yeah, this has always been, and probably always will be, my favourite Slipknot album. This was the album that really got me into the band. I listened to Volume 3 and then this, and that just solidified my love for this band. It's almost all killer, and you might have seen a video that I did where I picked out albums that are killer, but there's like one song that is not so good. I picked this because Snuff is on here. If Snuff is not on here, this would be a 10 out of 10 perfect album. But that one I do tend to skip a lot because it's just, it's on that slip sour, more of Stone Sour really, but the rest of the album is absolutely fantastic. You've got Gematria, Sulphur, Psychosocial, Vendetta, Butcher's Hook, This Cold Black, the title track as well, All Hope Is Gone. That opening riff is absolutely insane. Awesome, heavy, groovy album. And also the last album to feature the original classic lineup with Joey on drums and Paul on the bass. And yeah, I'll always love this album. This is always going to be my number one. I don't think they'll ever top this. They'd have to put out one hell of an album to top it. So that was my Slipknot album ranking. I'd love to know what you thought of my album ranking. It's a little bit controversial. I know there'll be a lot of people out there going, about some of the albums and some of my opinions, but it is what it is. Let me know what your Slipknot album ranking is. I would love to know, just so we can have a chat about it in the comments. That'd be awesome. I've got a lot more ranking videos planned for next year, including Satriani, Ozzy Osbourne, and a lot of others. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And thanks ever so much for watching if you got this far. And until next time, keep it metal. Up the maggots.